Back here, another late night on day 2 at the 2015 Division III World Series. Grand Chute, Wisconsin for D3Baseball.com. I'm Pat Coleman, joined by the guru of D3 Baseball, Jim Dixon, in which we ended the night with a game that started off as a classic and turned out to be a 12-inning masterpiece as Wisconsin-Lacrosse defeated Emory by the score of 3-2 in extra innings. More about that in a little bit. Salisbury and Webster were eliminated. Frostburg and Ramapo will meet again. Trinity and Emory will meet again. And by the end of the day tomorrow, weather willing, which it might not be, and we'll have more about that in a few minutes too. We'll know who will be playing for the championship, or at least who will be playing once again to play in the championship. Jim, let's start off with that game that we ended the night with, the one in which Wisconsin-Lacrosse. Let's see, they had a span of 10 innings where they had just 6 hits. They scratched out 2 runs, one of them unearned in the first, pushed one across in the 12th on an infield error to end the game, and Lacrosse walks away with a 3-2 win.
It really was an exciting ball game, and if you weren't watching it, you were missing out. We had heroes, we had goats, we had a goat that turned out to be a hero.
And then it turned out, of course, to maybe not be as big of a deal. But also, I think I don't even know if you're talking about Wilson Morgan, the left fielder for Emory, who made 2 errors in the first inning to lead to one of the unearned runs, and then came back with a 2-run single to tie in the top of the 7th. You could be talking about him. You could be talking about Jamison Sadowski, who allowed a couple of inherited runners to score in the 7th, and then went 6 scoreless innings to pick up the win. So which one of those guys, or is it somebody else entirely?
I think it's both. When you look at the ability to sit there and come back and make amends for an error, you're looking at Morgan Wilson. But it's the Lacrosse closer. He certainly came through and comes in, gives up 2 runs. I would have been down myself, but he came back and he pitched strong, and he was just losing a little bit of this velocity on his fastball, but he was still pitching pretty effectively.
Chris Schwartz, the Lacrosse head coach, said that basically if there was anybody who he thought could turn on a dime emotionally like that after giving up a couple of runs and come back and pitch the way he did, that Sadowski was the guy. Now, Sadowski, of course, D3Baseball.com All-American relief pitcher, not accustomed to getting really stretched out, but he threw 5 innings in that 13-inning game that actually spanned over 2 days in the Midwest Regional. Then he came back, he threw 3 innings in the first of that doubleheader game against Co the day on Sunday where they needed to win both games to advance here. And then, 6 innings, and, he really didn't look, he looked a little shaky early on. If I went back through my score sheet here, he gave up, he threw a wild pitch. That's the thing that basically made this game extend on, because it put 2 runners in scoring position, and then that single to right was able to score both of them. Other than that, we might be talking about Joe Miller getting the W, Sadowski getting the save, and we could have been out of here an hour ago. Instead, Sadowski goes 6. That's a career long for him, but he looked pretty darn good, especially as it went on 4th, 5th, 6th innings. You remember, too, earlier on in this game, Jim, Emory left a lot of guys in scoring position. They had 5 innings in a row where they left guys in scoring position, an inning where they left a guy on third. Then Sadowski comes back. He retires the side in order in the 8th, retires the side in order in the 9th, also in the 11th with the help of a blown call. Subplots we don't even have time to go over in this show. The 2 blown calls in the 11th and stuff like that. But he just pitched an amazing outing. By the way, he gets the win to improve to 5-0.
You look at both teams leaving a lot of players on base. Emory left 11. Crosse left 14 men on base. So it's both of them had their chances. This game could have ended in regulation 9, but instead it went to a very exciting 12 innings.
So Lacrosse is awaiting the winner of Trinity and Emory. Emory still has a chance, of course. They have a chance to come back tomorrow. They will face Emory in the second game, assuming that we have a second game tomorrow. Is it time to talk about the weather yet, or should we come back after the geological survey here?
I think everybody wants to know about the weather, Pat.
Well, I'm not sure how much we know about the weather. We just know that sometime around 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, there's a possibility that rain might start moving in. So as we know more about that, we'll let you know. That gives us an opportunity to at least get through the first game, and that would be Frostburg versus Ramapo. These teams played earlier in the tournament. Ramapo survived today. They really took it to Webster. They beat them 14-2. Brandon Berger, number 9 hitter in the lineup for the Roadrunners, 3 for 3 with 5 RBI. He had a 3-run homer in the second inning, had a 2-run double, and then came around at a walked later in the 6th inning as the Roadrunners had 14 batters, put an 8 spot on the board, and eliminated Webster by a 14-2 count.
I'm going to think back to this game, and to me the most exciting moment came when Scott Paseschi sat there and hit the inside to park home run. A little bit of a relay problem getting the ball in, but he was running around those bases like a roadrunner.
I think Pesciani hit the ball farther than anybody else did today. Just to the right of the 405 sign, got it all the way to the warning track. And yeah, I think the second baseman or shortstop who got the relay throw held onto it for a second, not realizing that Pesciani was not stopping. He got waved on in, and part of his 2 RBIs and 2 hits on the day. Tom Portesy gets the win. He improves to 10-1. Isaac Bin with the loss, 6-6. Webster's season over. Obviously, last year, you see, of course, they've been to the World Series before. Then they were 2-out in the regionals last year, and they were 2-out here in Appleton this time around.
You really got to give the Webster head coach a lot of credit. He's brought a team in 3 times in the last 4 years. It's really tough to get to the World Series, and to be able to do it consistently year in and year out. And it could have been 4 out of 4 because they were favored in the Central region last year. So the Webster program is doing fine. They're going to lose some pitching this next year, but most of the position players are back. So.
Are they a gore lock to be back next year in the Central Regional or Midwest?
Yes, I think you could say that.
I certainly did. I mostly just for the pun. Of course, so let's see. Ramapo will face Frostburg. Frostburg and Cortland, this game kind of buried in the middle of the day, which you kind of forget about at this point. Cortland comes into the playoffs as the number 1 team in the country. Frostburg comes in as the number 2 team. Cortland, takes advantage of a little bit of wildness on the part of Clayton Frymuth, and Frymuth ended up walking 7 batters in 7 innings. Cortland won 4-1. Brandon Serio, just an amazing pitching outing for the Red Dragons on Saturday.
It was, and I think both pitchers pitched well. This was probably the best play game that we've seen all day. The score was close. Even when Frymuth was getting batters on, whether by hit or walk, he was able to sit there and control the damage. So this is a game that Frostburg State could have easily won.
Yeah, let's see. So Frymuth allowed 15 base runners, 16. There's a hit by pitch, but of course only gave up 4 runs. So that means somewhere here there's 9 batters left on base for Cortland. But Brandon Serio went the distance, 9 innings pitched, 6 hits, 1 run unearned, struck out 10, walked 1 to improve to 8-0. Frymuth falls to 8-3. But of course Frostburg's not out of the tournament. They play Ramapo in the first game on Sunday morning. That's a rematch, of course, of a game played earlier in this tournament. And let's talk about the Trinity Salisbury game too, because Salisbury gets eliminated. Matt Tyndall has an amazing game. His breaking pitches were working particularly effectively. He struck out 10 Seagulls in the process. And Trinity puts up a 5 spot in the 3rd, a 4 spot in the 7th. And then at that point, Coach Troy Brohan, the first-year head coach of the Seagulls, as I was sitting next to that dugout, he's going and he's talking to a couple of his seniors, making sure that they know he wants to get them in the game, and I thought he did a nice job by getting some of his seniors in there at the end.
The Salisbury head coach did the right thing by putting in his seniors. He's a graduate of the program, so he knows what is expected of a Seagull. He spent 4 years there. He's been away from the program, and he hasn't been with the program until this year. So he's learned some things from his coaches and from his players. He's also teaching his coaches and players things. But I think that Salisbury could very well be back next year as well.
Dan Fine took the loss. He fell to 6-1, and Matt Tyndall, we mentioned him, he picked up the win to improve to 6-1 on the season. So to kind of reset the brackets for Sunday, We start the day with Frostburg and Ramapo in an elimination game. Winner of that game comes back for the third game of the day to face Cortland. Cortland's awaiting because, of course, they are undefeated in this tournament. Similarly, from the other pool, Trinity and Emory play in the elimination game in the second game of the afternoon, and then the winner comes on to face Wisconsin-Lacrosse at night. Wisconsin-Lacrosse is in the final spot of the day, 3 days in a row, and when they put 2,500 butts in the seats like they did tonight, that makes for a real nice atmosphere here.
It really does, and you can hear the crowd all throughout the stadium, and it's the groans when something's not going your way. Both sides are vocal, but certainly Crosse had the numbers on their side.
Let's talk about the format of this tournament a little bit before we wrap up. Obviously we talked about the fact that these are rematches, right? Frostburg and Ramapo have played. They played on Friday. Trinity and Emory played on Friday. There's a chance of a Frostburg-Cortland rematch also, and a chance of a Emory-Wisconsin-Lacrosse rematch as well. When you have these smaller pods, the two kind of 14 mini tournaments that play into this best-of-3 championship series, it definitely has a little bit of a different feel.
It really does, and I'm looking forward to see how it works out. I'm used to now coming back tomorrow seeing 3 games, but I got 4 more games to sit there.
Oh, yeah. Don't remind me. Sunday's usually where we get to breathe for a second.
It makes for yet another long day, but I think what we're going to do is I think this is going to be a real benefit for the programs. If you lose your first day, you're not out of it. And if you can sit there and come back through the bracket, you get a reset, and that loss just goes away.
It sure does. He's Jim Dixon. I'm Pat Coleman. We're not going away. Oh, we are going away for a little while. We'll come back with our Day 3 coverage, and you can see all the Day 2 coverage on d3baseball.com. This is the end of our Day 2 recap, and thanks for joining us from Appleton, Wisconsin.